Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Gay, Chief Marketing Officer of BlockCerts Blockchain, and welcome back to A World From Here. And it's really the dawn of a new day, and I'm here with the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Tim Basco. Good morning to you, Tim.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So just to kind of frame this up, it's amazing. I know you and I have both been around from Web 1.0 to now what we're terming Web 4.0. We've been around to see all of the changes, the technology that allowed many things to happen back in the late 90s and 2000s, and but that was like 40 years ago. And what we're seeing today is that centralized data does not work. Companies are still getting hacked. People's data is being exposed, and privacy is something that none of us take for granted anymore because we're tracked and we're hacked and many different things. It's a very dangerous place, Web 2.0 today. So we're here to change all that. We're here to talk a little bit more about that and kind of turn that over to you about what's happened even in the last week with databases and centralized.
Well, yeah, I think, Dan, you're
companies.
right. It's pretty interesting. I was away for a few days, and I've been looking at this whole idea of the metaverse and so forth. But most importantly, what's exciting for us is this month we're launching the Orbit Eye browser, and we've made this what I would call a new internet available in Web 4.0. And I mean, I couldn't. It's easy to say that. It's taken 2 decades to do it, and so let's kind of start there. And I found it really interesting. I want to go through a little bit of a history lesson, but it struck me as I was thinking about the world from here and what we started a few years ago with this program, and I want to take the out of it and say which world from here, because at this point it's about which world you're going to choose on the internet to be part of. There's
about
all
choice.
this noise out there about Web 2.0, Web 3.0. We're talking about Web 4.0. Jack Dorsey comes up, the CEO of Twitter, says Web 5.0. I'm like, wait a minute. What happened to Web 4.0? And how do you, and the thesis is you take Web 2.0 plus Web 3.0 and you get Web 5.0. I'm like, well, you've missed the entire point, which is it's the functional structure of the internet that is broken. It's the structure that and that's very centralized kind of crony capitalism thinking on, well, let's just glaze over the details. We'll just make a better, not good thing.
Right? Exactly. And it takes trust, which is the key cornerstone, and it throws it out the window. How much do you trust a company that has been already tracking you, that's had fraud on their service, forever?
Or bots, and there's the big argument about bots and so forth. So here's our world for you, world. The Orbit Eye browser, this is tied into all of the functions of BlockCerts, of a new Web 4.0 platform where you can do all of these functions. You can do everything you need to do in one place and not be tracked. And at the end of the day, I think world from here, week over week, we're going to try and educate people on what tracking means. But Mark Zuckerberg really understands really, really, really well, and so does Facebook or Meta, what tracking means in terms of billions and billions. And let's just click over here to The Economist, how Apple's privacy push has cost Meta $10 billion. And what that means is, since they can no longer track unless people allow it through an Apple device, the estimated number is $10 billion. So putting that in perspective, that means that all of this tracking we've been talking about, all of this identity and data usage we've been talking about, is down to the penny defined in the financial statement of Meta.
Right.
Right? Now, it's great that Apple took that move to protect privacy, but there's Big Brother for you again too, right? So
right, and there's
Apple
really
made a decision. I want
there's
to make
really no incentive to go and decentralize because revenues are based upon centralized business
revenues
models.
are based on centralized data.
Yeah.
Revenues are based on data. Revenues are based on use of that data.
Right.
And the metaverse itself, this whole idea of the metaverse, which came out, in fact, I pulled up a Wired article from 1993, right? And in this Wired article, where pizza deliverers rule, this is about the book where the metaverse term came out, Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash. And it takes place in the near future. That was 30 years ago, so it wasn't so near. And there are only four things we do better, meaning the American, it was written from an American's perspective, than anyone else. Music, movies, microcode software, and high-speed pizza delivery. That's it. And if you read this Snow Crash, it was very on point to kind of the things that we're facing now, and very much about the whole first part of it starts out with data collection, data privacy, and how it just doesn't exist anymore. And everything is centralized under Uncle Enzo, and Uncle Enzo is the mafia-like pizza mob boss that runs everything by data and by the clock because he knows exactly what's happening in the metaverse. And there's Uncle Enzo. Although I think he was only about 5 years old when the book came out.
Right.
So the point is, what we wanted to do, what I've been wanting to do and have created now, is an ability for everybody to start with downloading a browser, because that's your gateway into the internet. Bring that into, start with your privacy at the most fundamental basic level, and get that onto your device, your desktop, and then take all of your tools, package them in, anything you want to do. It's that the other business model that's out there in the internet today is this idea of the paywalls, and paywalls that block you by saying, oh, we're protecting your privacy. No, you're not. You're protecting your profits.
Right.
You know, we're going to send you an authentication code, meaning that if I want to let somebody else use my software while I'm not using it, you don't want me to. You want them to buy a seat fee, right?
Right.
And those are the kinds of things, Dan, that we're changing. And that's why we call it, and I'm going to hide my video here for a moment, Cloud Independence Day. So our entire team was working all the way through July 4th to create a Cloud Independence Day, which we'll be announcing when our Cloud Independence Day is and how all these tools work for everybody. But right now, you can download the Orbit Eye browser and get above the cloud. You can actually transform your world above the cloud and start looking at what do you want to share and where do you want to go in this cloud environment and what do you want to leverage. And we're going to show people how to do that.
Yeah, and then Tim, on one of our token holder webinars a few weeks ago, you were talking about how this connects all the dots. So a private browser, we've seen a couple private browsers come up, which is great. It protects you from search, et cetera, but it doesn't go beyond to give you a secure virtual space, which this really connects the dots for us. You enter the internet, you're able to search, but then you're able to enter into your secure private cloud. And,
well, yeah, the secure virtual space is something that we're going to have to explain to people. But as I was thinking about it, I was thinking about cars, Dan.
Okay.
We
can all relate.
We can all relate to cars, right?
Right.
And there are about 1.4 billion cars on the planet. There are also about 1 billion bicycles, and there are 300 to 400 million motorcycles, all individual forms of transportation. So roughly half of the world's population has a way to get there on their own. The internet up to this point has been like crowding us into buses, subways, and train stations and having specific destinations, specific ticket fees, and railroad tracks that we have to get on to get there. There's no freedom of movement. So Web 4.0 is more like using that infrastructure, all this road infrastructure that we created, and having your own car. That's what a secure virtual space is. And once you have that, once you are starting to understand that you can create your own destinations and what happens in that car, yes, there's going to be safety standards. Yeah, you're going to have to follow some speed limits and things like that. And if you're on the Autobahn, you might be flying down the road. And if you're in my hometown, you can't go over, like, I think 40 kilometers an hour. It's about 25 miles an hour. Right? It's just very slow.
You're on an island. Yep.
I'm on an island. But the point is that a secure virtual space, you start with the world which you choose, because your destination is what's important to you. And, you know, we talk a lot about user experience and flows and things like that. You can't just, like, I can't say what your user experience should be, Dan, if I'm going to create a decentralized cloud. You can only say what your user experience can be because it's yours, right?
Right. And all it takes is for someone to take over your identity. That happened to my son, who's 30, and he's just lived through, for 2 months now, he's lived through all kinds of issues with his bank account and many other things that he's just now getting, control of. And he's an individual that said, oh my God, I've got to do everything I can to protect my privacy, to protect everything. So that, and it just takes one time for somebody to go through that to see just how serious this can be.
And there's so much that we want to share with the world about why this is important and why we've worked so hard and spent so many millions of man hours or person hours globally to bring this about. But, you talk about identity, and I couldn't help but pull this up today, which is Clint Eastwood won a second big lawsuit against the CBD industry. So here's somebody who's not afraid to stand up to protect his identity. Of course, he has the means. And, most people don't have these kinds of means. But the CBD industry, I don't know the case, I don't know the law. I just briefly read this. But the point being that you can't take what somebody else says and go out there and just use it. And it's really interesting that these established models of our infrastructure in our society can be used or are used on a regular basis as we're kind of navigating the globe. We're navigating this digital thing. We're protecting ourselves. And where it's being used, interestingly, is this identity of or intellectual property. Well, now we're seeing that the companies that made killings, literally killings, on the NFT market are also stepping back into traditional models and frameworks like Yuga Labs did, where Yuga Labs came out and now they're in court suing Ryder Ripps for his conceptual knockoff of their Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Yeah.
So identity, privacy, security, this is all the NFT certain and all of the certain models we have, because when you create that and when you get control of your data and when you think about that up front, you don't have these problems that come flowing out of not having built the infrastructure in the front on in the first place. But very few companies have the tenacity or have had the tenacity. They'd rather tell a big story, get the influencer marketing going, and grab a bunch of cash. And you can't really build a new infrastructure by doing that. There's too many stakeholders that are centralized, or as you say in your introduction video, the Kingpins, who don't want that to happen, right? They want to.
Yeah.
They want to control the resources and the assets.
Right.
Right.
Yep. They're the blockers. They're the ones that the revenue models don't want this to happen.
Well, and they can't afford for it to happen, right? They don't have the structure for it to happen. So one of the other things, and you can just keep going on and on with this. I think you said OpenSea just announced that they were hacked again.
Yeah, their email service. Anybody who has an email with OpenSea has been exposed. Anybody who's received an email from OpenSea has been exposed. That came out 2 days ago, and it just goes to show centralized data continues to have issues on a daily basis.
And then they had this valuation of $13 billion, and it says it doesn't make sense as NFT volumes plunge. Well, how do you create a distributed, decentralized company and get a $300 million centralized investment?
Right.
So the whole idea of creating Web 4.0 and creating this model that BlockCerts has created has been based on decentralized capital, decentralized models, and avoiding those kinds of pitfalls that come into the market when we're dealing with what it means to create a new infrastructure for the internet. And really, at the end of the day, there's just example after example after example, one of which our chief security officer told me about, and this is 2 hours old, but Rogers, which runs all the ATMs throughout, many of the ATMs throughout the country, is down, and which means that all the electronic payments, things like that, are down across Canada right now.
I guess it's a government holiday all of a sudden.
So, in short, we're looking at this world and this idea of bringing the first connection, and that's what we really were shooting for with Orbit Eye, is to get your eye above the cloud, give you this orbit, and then create this secure virtual space environment where you can download that and you actually have your cloud. You're able to run your own cloud and truly be confident that you're protecting your own data.
Absolutely. And if you ask a question, would you rather have a choice? Most people would say absolutely. Would you like to secure your own identity and your own data, protect what's yours and what's important? Absolutely.
That's right.
And there's a way to now do that. So, and if you go to blockcerts.com, you'll see that we've totally changed the website where Tim just was. You can click on find out more, watch the couple videos there, and then it's free. Download Orbit Eye and get started. This is our first exciting launch of this. We'll be doing a much larger launch as we move forward, but we wanted to share this information with our true followers at the World From Here. So pretty exciting, Tim. Congratulations to you. As we talk about connecting the dots.
We'll be talking about our public web search. We'll be talking about searching with complete privacy, non-trackable search. We'll be talking about the way that the new domain structures are working, but there was just too much to cram in to one session. And so please follow us, subscribe. I'll be writing a lot of blogs now, a lot of information. We'll be delivering it through our marketing team and so forth about how this new Web 4.0 framework works and how it really isn't just the Web 4.0. In fact, you can throw any number after it you want.
Right.
So in thinking about that, I'm like, Web 4.0, Web 5.0, Web 7.0, what are we going to compete on numbers? And so what I did is I just bought webnumber.org.
Exactly. Again, it's about trust. It's about creating the decentralized environment where you have control.
It's actually about a new framework that incorporates this kind of trustonomic model where we know what's going on with trust, truth, and transparency, which has been BlockCerts' mandate from the outset. So it's been a long, long journey to be able to hand this to people. Download the browser. As soon as you own a token, even a single token, you are now part of that protected community. And as we migrate through this, we'll be able to provide people with this idea of identity, sovereignty, and true cloud independence. The cloud independence days are here.
They are. So congratulations again to you, Tim. And we wanted to make this just a short and sweet webinar this morning and introduce what we just accomplished. And Tim, I know you want to congratulate the whole team. As you said, a lot of people spending many sleepless hours to get this out.
Well, we spent a huge amount of time to get here. This is the wrapper. This gives you the view above all of the clutter on the cloud. And our team has worked endlessly to do this. We'll be delivering a lot more information about what's behind this. And when you go on, you'll be able to search. You'll be able to download your browser. You'll be able to do it with complete confidence. And you'll be able to use every tool you could possibly think of for whether it's your personal life or your business life, and have complete confidence that you'll never lose access and you'll always have control of your data. So that's Web 4.0. Now we have an infrastructure. Now we can advance into these really fascinating places that are going to be the metaverse, and things that I actually just read, Dan, quickly about some of the AI stuff we're going to be talking about, and the Orbit AI that we're bringing out next. And one thing that was really
Hey, Tim, you crack me up because there's always a next.
There's always a next. Well, there will be a next long after I'm gone.
Yeah.
And this idea of I think it was Stanford scientists have now created, excuse me, AI avatars that are so realistic they actually model humans. So if you think identity is hard to protect now, just think about that as we do start creating these avatars that are digital representations of ourselves. And there's so much data collected on that it's quite possible to do this with things like deepfake videos and voice recognition technology and all of this. It's just fascinating where it's going. So, which world from here? That's the question you have to ask. Which world are you going to be? Are you going to be Uncle Enzo's pizza delivery mafia, or are you going to be that's from Snow Crash, or are you going to be independent and have your cloud independence? That's really what BlockCerts is about now.
Awesome. So thank you everybody for watching. If you haven't done so, please hit subscribe and also hit the thumbs up button. We appreciate it. And we've got more that we're going to continue to talk about. And as Tim said, there's more to this public browsing. We'll talk about the public key, the private key, et cetera, and other components of this on our next World from Here.
That's right.
So, thanks for joining us, everybody.